AI has completely changed fulfillment for agencies. In this video, I'll be showing you how you can implement AI into your agency so you don't get stuck in a world with high stress, low margins, and low profit. And in order to do that, we'll be going over how AI has fundamentally changed the agency model as we know it, more specifically, real examples of how some of our partners are staying ahead by using AI, and lastly, how you can do the exact same thing in your agency by copying what our partners are doing. So first, let's go over how AI has fundamentally changed the agency model. A long time ago, and by a long time ago, I literally mean a few years ago, even last year, to be honest, we were basically stuck in this flywheel where every single time we signed more clients, we had an increase in revenue. When revenue increased, we had more work to do because we had to fulfill for those clients that we signed on, at least for service-based businesses. Once we had more work, we reached our capacity, and because we reached our capacity, we wanted to hire more people to actually fulfill for the clients we brought on. Hiring more people meant higher payroll meant lower margins, and lower margins meaning we wanted to make more profit. So how do we do that? We signed more clients. So we're basically stuck in a cycle where every time we sign a new client, we needed to hire more people. Obviously, this isn't a direct correlation, but as you continue growing, you basically had to hire more people. More clients basically meant lower profits because you had to hire more people to make up for that time. In the agency world, the biggest cost has always been people. And this basically caused a cap in the margins our agency could actually have, which was determined by how many clients your CSMs could take on, how long it took your team to do reporting, how long it took your media buyers to actually manage the individual ad accounts. We were capped by the capacity of the individual roles, or obviously just individual pawns within the agency. In this case, back in the day, this is like a month ago, whatever, but scaling basically meant lowering our profit margins and also higher stress because we were managing more team members, which is obviously not where we want to be. But how has AI actually changed this? Now, due to AI and due to the different things we're going to be showing you in this video, we're no longer stuck in this loop where signing more clients means hiring more people and decreasing our margins, because now we're basically moving over from the old way to the new way of managing an agency. The old way of managing agencies is basically where we have one pod or a series of pods that can manage a certain amount of clients. With AI now, we can still have these pods, but these pods can now manage 5 times more clients than it previously could. And this is the massive shift here. This is the shift I'm going to be talking about in this video. And I've got this cool gift to actually show you guys to actually show the difference, right? Because this is the only thing I want to emphasize. With AI, we can now have a greater output for the same input because we can make our team members more productive. Now, this is super important and it actually stuck to me when I was listening to this podcast from Elon Musk, which regardless of whether you like him or not, you have to appreciate what he says specifically about AI. I mean, this guy's literally putting data centers up in space. And he said that AI isn't about reducing headcount, it's about increasing the output per person. And in fact, for Tesla and his different companies, he's not focusing on reducing the headcount. He's actually focusing on hiring more people, but just getting so much greater output for that same input of an individual person. So in the car world, for example, to kind of visualize this, let's say he had 10 employees that made 100 cars a year. He's now talking about having 20 employees, but who can now make 1,000 cars a year. So increasing both headcount and the actual output that comes in. And the key thing that's important here is that I'm not talking about firing people. And this is like the wrong way to kind of visualize this. I'm not talking about getting rid of media buyers, like a couple of different people in this space, or getting rid of your video editors, whatever else it may be. I'm talking about still maintaining your pod structure, but giving your pods different tools that make their life easier so they can manage more clients. So for example, giving your video editor different video editing tools so they can edit more videos, giving your CSMs different tools to manage clients so they can manage more clients and still maintain relationships. It's not necessarily about firing people. It's more so about changing the structure of the individual workflows so you can get a greater output for the same input of your team. This just means that now when you scale and continue hiring and getting more clients, you don't have to hire more people to decrease your margins because you have these workflows that will assist your team members in actually completing their jobs. Alex Hormozi, which if you don't know who he is, he's the founder of acquisition.com. He made $100 million in 3 days. Said in one of his recent interviews that 80% of agency fulfillment can be automated by AI. And he's 1,000% right. It's the same thing we've been doing for our partners for the past 3 years, because now we only need humans in things that need human judgment. Different things like relationship building, like final approvals, at least for now anyways, having calls with clients to actually build relationships, having some sort of high-level decision making. What doesn't require human input is repetitive things like reporting, scripting drafts or scripting scripts, whatever else it may be, task creation and within a project management tool, having some sort of data analysis or gathering all the data from, creating summaries from calls, some sort of SOP enforcement, CRM providers, clients. 80% of time we're actually wasting our time time. And this is the 80% of time that we're going to be injecting AI into to make your team more productive. And if you do this, if you now can go ahead and automate the 50% of work or give your team tools to actually get rid of that 80%, your margins will be fundamentally different. Again, because for that same input, you're getting a much larger output. And this is the shift I want to show you guys how to actually implement in this video. So if you're still with me and that all makes sense, then stay along because I'm not holding anything back in this video. What I'm going to be going through next is real examples of some of our partners are staying ahead. And this is not me just showing you some random ChatGPT hack which you can implement, or some sort of amazing prompt which is going to game change it, or for example, some sort of content creation automation that you're never actually going to use. What I'm going to show you here is real examples of workflows that we implemented in real seven-figure agencies to show you examples to kind of brighten your mind and kind of enlighten you as to what is actually possible out there and how you can actually implement these different AI tools or workflows or agentic agents within your agency to make your team's lives easier so you can get more output for the same input. And this is not intended to be anything complicated, guys. It's simple by design because I don't want to confuse you with a random workflow that looks cool. I want to show you something you can actually just copy from me straight away and obviously expand on it within your own agency to make it better and make it more relevant to what you're specifically doing. So if any of us are interested, then let's go into the first topic, which is onboarding. So the first example of this is onboarding, because onboarding is a massive part we talk about in this channel. If you don't know me, my name is Leo. I'm the CEO and founder of Fluxomate. Probably should have introduced myself a bit earlier, but within this channel, we help different agencies with the backend systems. And onboarding is a topic that we talk about a lot on this channel because it's such an important point. I'm not going to go in a 5-minute rant like I usually do or go over how important onboarding actually is. What you need to do is onboarding is the first impression of your clients, and it does make a massive effect in terms of that trust they have for you. So if you don't get them results straight off the bat for it, you have a bit of time to actually get them the results because they have that trust in you. Now, onboarding is something that agencies get so wrong, and the implementation of AI within onboarding is the first example of these AI workflows that we're going to be talking about in this video that you can implement your agency literally today. And this is not complicated stuff, guys. I really want to emphasize this. What I'm going to show you today is 3 simple workflows that you can literally just steal from me and implement straight into your agency. So let's first talk about the old way of actually onboarding clients, because this is the old way which has caused delays and low time to value for clients, which in turn will not give you that trust. Now, when that launch call is finished, you basically start the work for the client. You go ahead and write the different scripts, which maybe takes 3 days for your CSM to do, or for example, if you have a copywriter in-house to actually write those scripts for your clients. Then once those scripts are created and they're approved, then you have to go ahead and create a campaign structure within Meta. Then you have to go ahead and edit ads. Then you have to wait for the video editor to edit ads. Then you have to go ahead and review the ads, which takes a CSM another day. And then you go ahead and actually hop on a launch call. With this old way of onboarding people, we basically had to wait 9 days for ads to actually be launched, which is just a low time to value, because then that's going to delay how much time it takes a client to actually get their first lead. And this is how most agencies are currently onboarding clients, because the CSMs, the media buyers, whoever else it may be, they're juggling so many different things. And on top of doing that one specific onboarding cost, which in this case is writing scripts, could also be creating the campaigns or editing the media buyers, whatever else it may be, they're doing everything else that they need to do in their day-to-day job. Like for a CSM, let's say they have to write the scripts for the client based on launch call. That is on top of everything else they have to do, like following up with clients, having access to some client calls, doing some cancellation requests. And this gets very, very busy, which is why there's so many delays in the onboarding process. And any sort of delay is going to cause a delay or a decrease in the time to value that a client has, and obviously decrease trust, which you obviously do not want. This is the old way of running an onboarding process. Let's now look at how you can implement AI very simply with this onboarding process to make the life a bit easier for you and your clients. This is the difference from going from a manual onboarding process, which is very labor intensive, to an automatic process, which gives you greater output for the same input. So how does it actually look like? What does it actually look like when we actually talk about an action? Now, for example, let's say you have a launch call. Now, rather than having to wait for the CSM to write the scripts to create the campaigns, you can just have AI do everything. So as soon as the launch call is finished, you have AI pull the call transcript. When you pull the call transcript, you can go ahead and actually automatically generate the call strips. You can set up the Google Drive folders for your clients. You can set up the different accounts, high level, Facebook. You can go ahead and actually auto generate the funnels as well, make it designed specifically for the client. And then you can go ahead and actually also auto generate the image ads so you can get something launched as soon as possible. Now, basically, the only thing your team needs to do is, rather than actually creating the scripts, all you need to do is actually approve the work that's been created by the AI. And as soon as it's been approved, you can go ahead and actually create the campaigns with the Meta, add all the ads to Meta, and then actually just launch the ads. I hope you guys see the fundamental difference that we're talking about here, because now we're not just waiting around for all your team members to actually complete tasks. It's like starting everything from scratch or making a sandwich, like making a bread from scratch, making a cheese from scratch, making a ham from scratch, rather than having some sort of prepackaged goods we can put together. The end result is still the same, if not better with AI, because we can actually dedicate a bit more time to it and it's more consistent across different roles, but we are not wasting time waiting to do everything from scratch because everything's already prepackaged for us, and all your team need to do is basically put it together, at least for now. In this case, just basically review what we have to do. I need to to emphasize this. It's not about reducing the headcount. It's about basically increasing output per person. So I don't want you going into this thinking, hey, I will be able to fire my CSMs. Oh, wait, I can replace my medium writers with one tool, because it's not the case. You're basically just empowering your different team roles within your agency to do more with the tools that you're going to give them and actually implement. You're basically getting rid of the 80% and you're keeping the 20% of most important things, which are actually going to drive the effort forward. If you have another Pareto principle, I really recommend you check it out. It's basically when 20% of the effort gets 80% of the results, and we're basically allowing your team to focus on 20% of the effort, which in turn leads to a faster onboarding for your clients, a happier team and happier clients, and less stress for you because you don't have to worry about clients not being onboarded, which obviously sucks. What I've basically just gone through now is an example of how you can move or implement some sort of AI agentic workflow within your onboarding process specifically. And the whole idea of this is just showing you different ways, opening your imagination of different ways that you can implement AI into different processes or workflows in your agency to make your team's lives easier. It's very important to emphasize, allow you to increase your output for the same input in terms of your staff's time. And if any of that sounds interesting, guys, don't worry. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you how you can actually do this by yourself for your agency. And in this section, we're just mainly going over examples so I can just enlighten you a bit more as to what the future actually looks like and what real agencies are doing now to kind of stay ahead. The second example we're going to be going over is results monitoring. Now, results monitoring is something that's highly specific for results-based agencies, which is my target audience. So I'm being a bit selfish here, but whatever, this is nurture anyways. Results-based agencies know that as you continue to scale, it becomes very, very difficult to continually maintain results for clients, especially as you continue growing. And this is because when you first started your agency and it was you and 5 clients, it was very easy for you to have a pulse check on how everyone was doing because you had very close relationships with everyone. But now when you wake up one day and you manage 100 plus clients and your CSM's managing 30, 40 different clients, it becomes very hard to make sure that each individual person is getting consistent results on a general basis. And what happens then is your team becomes very reactive because they can't check individual results on a time basis. They are now being reactive to clients complaining to you. And when clients come to you complaining about results, then that's already when you're in a very, very difficult position because you're meant to be the authority here. Like, for example, if you talk about a lead gen agency for constructors, if constructors now come to you and start telling you, hey, my ads suck, that is a very, very bad place to be in because you're meant to be the expert in ads. The construction guy should not be coming to you telling you about ads. You should be on top of everything. But obviously, as you scale and get more clients, this becomes much, much harder to do. So what does the old way look like and how we can actually implement AI to make it this better? Well, first things first, the old way. CSMs basically are manually checking the ad manager, they're manually checking the go high level pipeline, they're manually checking the Google Calendar, wherever else it may be. And they're doing this for every single client that they have to come across. Because for us, at least for most agencies that we speak to, they don't have any sort of consistent cadence where they check all the different clients' results on a regular basis. It's just, oh, hey, let's go ahead and remember if to do this and let's go ahead and actually check them out for all the different clients they're managing. This is something that's easy to do when you have a few clients, but when you have more clients and your CSMs are managing 30, 40, even 20 clients, there's still a lot of people that need to check every single week. And that's on top of all the different tasks they have to do on a regular basis, like hopping on calls with clients, having specific client requests, having some sort of cancellations, whatever else it may be. It makes life very, very hard to them. And this old way of manually checking things basically leads to firefighting. Like I said earlier, you're basically being reactive to your client's communication, which is a very, very bad place to be in when you obviously don't want to be here. This leads to poorer results for the clients, obviously worse trust because your clients are coming to you rather than you being the authority. And in turn, that will lead to high churn, low LTV, and you making less money. This is the old way of how agencies are checking client results. For results-based agencies, making sure they get results on a consistent basis. Now let's go over the new way. Now, the new way basically encompasses something that I call the CCE playbook, which is basically how we advise lead gen agencies to actually do this. It's very simple. I'm not going to go over. I've got a whole video going over this, so I'm not going to emphasize this for too long. But you're basically checking the results, you're comparing them to targets, and then you're executing and doing something about this. The way you can actually implement AI here, and the way our partners are actually implementing AI, specifically for the results-based agencies to make sure they get results for their clients on a consistent basis, is within this check and compare stage, they are not doing this. They're having AI automatically do this. Now, what does that actually mean? They're having AI basically automatically gather data from Meta. They're having AI automatically gather the data from Facebook. They're having AI automatically gather data from any sort of call center that they may have. And then from there, that data is automatically gathered in one place. So imagine one dashboard where you can see all the different data in one specific place, rather than having to hop into 20 or 30 individual ad accounts, 20 to 30 individual sub accounts, 20 to 30 different call center dashboards. You have everything in one place where you can see everyone's data and you can see the data that your clients actually care about. Then we'll basically compare the targets for each individual person. And for each client, you're basically automatically having a grading as to who's doing well, So who's doing amazing, getting good results? Who's doing okay? So in this case, it's yellow, who's maybe not as great results, and who's doing really, really bad. So your CSMs have a clear priority of who needs to be focused. And the key distinction here is basically the time it will take you to do this manually. Imagine you having to track each individual client one by one and actually gathering the results and actually comparing the targets that you may set. This will take a very long time. The key thing about this is now you can implement AI to have this do automatically for you. So basically, at the end of the week, the only thing your CSMs actually need to do is just execute. Actually, just do the things that actually get the clients better results, rather than having to spend an insane amount of time checking the results for each individual client, comparing the targets, and actually trying to generate the things that you actually need to generate. All they need to do is basically the things that actually matter, which is actually doing something to get a client better results, whether it's triaging to the media buyers to change the campaigns, whether it's getting record the clients to record new creators, whatever else maybe, it doesn't matter. But what I'm talking about specifically here is giving your CSMs visibility on exactly who needs help. And without having AI or some sort of agentic workflow in this process is something that you will not do every single week. And because of that, your client's results will suffer. So with this new way of using AI to automatically check and compare the data for you and potentially even execute, at least for the smaller item things, you have a happier client and a happier team and less stress on your end, because you know that any client that comes in actually is getting deliverable results on a regular basis, because you have a system that allows you, which in turn will lead to lower churn, higher LTV, and more money for your agency. So it's just the second example of how you can implement some sort of agentic AI workflow within your agency to streamline a specific process. So far we've gone over onboarding, which is more so a one-time process that you do whenever a client comes on. And we've also gone over getting or checking client results on a consistent basis, which is a repeated process that you have to do in your agency every single week. And we have shown you in both cases different examples of how you can implement AI to actually streamline that. The third example we're going to go over is more so of a workflow, which is a post-call workflow. Now, within your agency, you have a ton of different calls. There's so many different calls that are happening, whether it's a sales call, teams call, client call, group call, whatever else. And within those calls, usually you have different to-do lists from things you have to commit to or things you do on those calls. And in this case, I say we're going to use the example of client calls for your CSMs. But whenever the meeting finished, your CSMs basically forgot everything they had to do because they forgot to update it throughout the meeting because they were actually paying attention to the client, which is not their fault. They have to go ahead and spend an hour reviewing the recording. And then from there, they go ahead and actually add tasks that they remembered. But this is on top of everything that they're doing. And chances are they might even forget to just watch the recording, update the CRM. What does it actually cause? This causes missed opportunities because your CSMs might not be identifying opportunities for upsells. This causes missed churn signals. Let's say your CSM or your client mentioned something that your CSM might have missed. That might have been a churn signal that you can pick on and be proactive on. Lower trust from your clients because your CSMs are saying they're doing something and they don't actually do it. I'm sure you guys can relate to that. And obviously an out-of-date CRM system because it's not being updated by the CSMs. I use the example of specifically client success calls in this case, but this is not specifically just for client success call. The same thing applies to sales. It even applies to your internal team calls and also your coaching calls that you have with your clients. The old way of kind of doing a post-call workflow is outdated and just leads to a bunch of disadvantages which you do not want in your agency. So now let's talk about how you can actually implement AI in this process. And honestly, guys, if you're watching this is probably a very simple workflow, but all I want to do here is just open the possibilities to what you can actually do, right? So for example, now let's say when the meeting is finished, rather than the CSM forgetting everything and having to add the task manually, you can have an AI automatically get a call transcript. You can have an AI automatically identify the tasks. You can have an AI automatically generate and assign a task. You can have the AI update the CRM. You can have it send a post-call message to the client saying, hey, thanks for the call. This is what I'm going to do. This is what you need to do. You can have it automatically identify churn signals. And if there's any churn signals, you can share it with the team and actually escalate it. You can have it identify missed opportunity for upsells and give a CSM some training, all before the meeting recording has even been processed. This is the disadvantage or the advantage that you have by actually implementing AI in your workflow. Think about this. If your team will actually do this after every single call manually, it will probably take them 30 minutes to go over the recording, another 30 minutes to brainstorm all the different things and actually escalate it, write the message. But now, basically in a matter of seconds, we can have AI automatically do this for us. And this basically means the no missed opportunities after calls. It means to us actually detecting different churn signals and escalating to the relevant person. It leads to no lack of trust for the clients because if we say we want to do something, we have accountability systems to actually make sure our team actually does it, and an in-date CRM system which prevents from anything falling through the cracks and will allow you to give your clients a better experience. All these different examples I've shown you today, they're very easy to do when you have 5 clients. And if you have 5 clients, then I probably recommend watching this video or at least pay too much attention to this because I think you have high priorities to actually work on. But when you wake up one day and you're managing 100 plus clients and you have a team that actually need to deliver your clients results, this becomes very, very hard to do. And the only way to do this without having to hire a bunch of different team members and ruin your profit margins is by implementing AI like these different examples I've shown you today to make your life so much easier and also make your team life so much easier. And these are basically just tools that allow our clients to get a greater output for the same input of team members. So guys, what I've just basically done is gone over 3 examples of how our clients are using AI. Hopefully that's actually enlightened you and and showing you the different possibilities of what you can actually do. And these examples were simple by design, but it should at least open your brain to the different possibilities of what you can actually do and the freedom you can potentially achieve if you were to implement AI into your workflows. Now I'm going to show you how you can actually do the same exact thing, because you're probably wondering, how can you actually implement this in your agency and go from the old way of having low margins, low profit, and high stress to the new way where your same team can manage more clients. And the first step of this is basically mapping out your process. Guys, this is one of the most valuable things you can do, especially on a regular basis. You need to get a whiteboard like the one I've got over here, or just even like an online whiteboard like the one I'm using in this case, which is just Figma, and you want to map out everything that you do. So this is an example of what we got for a fulfillment process. This is another example for fulfillment process, but you just basically want to ask yourself, what do you actually do within your fulfillment process? What do you actually do within your onboarding process? Like, what do you actually do to get your clients results? What does each individual role in your clients do? And when you all think about this, when you're mapping it out, at least the initial version, there's a couple different versions I can map out here. I've got a ton of different videos going out how to do this, but you want to take this from a client perspective. So think of this as, for example, you're on a call with a client and they ask you, okay, and what actually happens next? And you just walk them through exactly what you're going to do, basically. And this is very important because you can't automate what you don't understand. And sometimes, especially as you continue growing, you kind of get detached from the fulfillment process. So you want to be very on top of exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So you have a very, very clear bird's eye view of what you need to actually focus on. Now, the easiest way to do this, to be honest, rather than hop on a whiteboard, is just hop on a call with yourself and go over everything that you do. Just literally talk through it. Now, the reason you can hop on a call, maybe record a Loom, whatever, is because now you can just get that transcript, plug it into AI, and have it also just give you a bit more clarity as to what's happening behind the scenes. But the whole idea is that we're basically breaking down each individual thing that we do into individual steps. And the way you want to think about this is as when I was in school, from all the way from kindergarten to when I was actually studying aerospace engineering at university, when we were doing any sort of practicals, it was very apparent that we wanted to explain something at a very clear level. So this obviously will take some time, but you will basically want to break it down a step-by-step method for your fulfillment, and think of it as like a SOP but on crack, because it's going to be so much better. Because basically for every small thing you do, you want to create some sort of example. And I always like to give the T example. I might not give it in this case, but the whole idea is that you basically want to clearly emphasize exactly what you do for every single step and repeat that for every single one of the processes that you have in your agency. I think Alex was recently talking about this, but it's been a concept that's been going around for a while. When you're looking at like a role within an agency, you want to break it down within workflows. Like, for example, if you have a video editor, the video editor edits videos, obviously, right? But what does he actually do? Like when he logs in the morning, like what is he actually doing when he gets a new video? Is he, for example, first looking at a transcript and trying to identify, or for example, watching the video first and trying to identify the high moments? Is he first trying to get an understanding of what the video is actually about? Is he first, I don't know, checking his Google Drive folder of any potential B-roll that he has? Is he then looking to find the music that actually matches? But every single role that you have, you want to break it down within actual individual workflows as to what a person is actually doing to get that end outcome. So it's not good enough for you to say, for example, when it comes to video editing, that the video gets edited. Break down exactly what happens at the video editing stage, because in the future stages, which we'll talk about now, because remember this, guys, this is just step one. We have 3 more steps to go. We need that clarity because it will allow us to actually jump in and actually automate processes. I mean, this is the same thing that we do for our clients. Like when we come into an agency, it becomes very hard if you don't have this sort of clarity to actually work in an agency that you're not a part of, right? Because obviously we're external partners that come into agencies, but we still need to find ways to first identify what the top priorities are, which we're going to talk about in a second, but also actually get an understanding of what the agency actually does, their secret, unique fulfillment process. And this is the first thing we do for every single one of our established partners, or at least for our higher ticket offers, is we just map everything out. And it's generally one of the most valuable things that the founder actually have, because they actually get real clarity on what's happening behind the scenes. When it's you and 5 clients, you already know. But as you continue growing, your team kind of gets disattached of the fulfillment process, at least the way you wanted it to be. And I can tell you more than enough times, I've had founders say like, wait, what? Why are we doing that? You know, it allows you to identify different things, which brings me on to step 2, which is leverage. Now, while we've broken down all the different things that we have within this process, we don't necessarily want to work on everything. We don't necessarily want to begin doing everything immediately. And this is because of this amazing quote by Bill Gates, which if you don't know, so listen to him. The first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. The second is that automation applied to inefficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. And that is what we do not want to do, guys. We do not want to magnify the inefficiency. So before we move on to actually automating anything and finding the high leverage points and, you know, so on and so forth, we want to actually optimize our current processes. Now, this is obviously a little bit harder, and we're not aiming for 100% 100% optimization here because it's unlikely you're going to do that for everything. We're just aiming even for a slow optimization, so we're not just working on trash. And basically all we're going to do here is we're going to look at our step-by-step breakdowns that we created in the previous step, and we're going to ask ourselves, okay, why are we actually doing this? And the best way to do this, guys, is obviously I've got a whole skill proof roadmap on this in my skill community, which is free, but the best way to do it is just ask yourself different questions. What takes the most time? What is actually causing the delays? What requires repetitive thinking? What is the kind of sort of rule base? What is depending on structured data? For all the different processes and steps that we split up in the previous page, something that looks like this, ask yourself why you're actually doing that. And from that, come up with a more kind of broken down process or more optimized process for the video editors. Like, for example, if for the video editors, you notice that they spend, I don't know, 30 minutes trying to find a song, maybe you can have a pre-selected set of songs that you search for them every single day. And the whole idea of this and the reason why I'm actually doing this is because we don't want to automate something that is inefficient, because like just expand the inefficiency and waste a bit of time. So before we go into like automating or streamlining a specific process, let's just think about why we're actually doing it that way and if it's something that we actually want to continue. I've got so many different examples on my YouTube channel, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But for now, there's a reason we're spending a lot of different time or investing a lot of different time in terms of actually getting this clear roadmap, because this is what is going to guide us forward. This is what we're going to use for the rest of our agency time to actually expand and improve our existing workflows. So it's very, very important that you spend a lot of time in step 1 and step 2. No matter how boring it's going to be, it's going to give you so much clarity as what's actually happening behind the scene. And this is now what's going to allow you to actually document what's happening in your agency, which, hint, when you go out to actually sell and you go to actually create a SOPs and you want to remove yourself from the fulfillment process, is going to be very, very important. So now that once we have mapped our process and we have everything optimized, we can now go ahead and actually choose our priorities. And the reason for this is because there's going to be a bunch of different opportunities you can identify for yourself here. Honestly, probably like 1,000, maybe not, maybe 100 plus different things that you can do to actually make your life easier and actually make the agency a lot more streamlined. That does not mean you should do every single thing. You want to focus specifically on the priorities. The highest priority action items are the ones that are actually going to drive things forward. And the way I like to think about this is just focus on your constraint. In a business, there's going to be so many different things you can do. Aside from automations, there's so many different things you can do. You can improve your marketing, you can improve your nurture, you can improve your sales, you can improve your back-end fulfillment, you can improve your hiring. As a founder, you should be focusing specifically on the constraint of the business at any given time. In my case, my constraint is content. That's why I'm focusing on content. That's why I'm making this YouTube video. Our fulfillment is super dialed. We have literally no worries about that. We can take on people, no problem. A small hint, obviously, we do a lot of fulfillment for different agencies. So it makes sense that our fulfillment is dialed. But one thing that we're trying to improve on now is the content side of things, the acquisition side of things, the sales side of things, because I'm horrible at sales. Now, that is the constraint that I'm focusing on. If you're a lead gen agency, or if you're an agency watching this right now, there's a high chance that your constraint is actually around fulfillment. But still, within fulfillment, there's a couple of different constraints you can focus on. Is it, for example, the fact that you're not getting clients results? Is it, for example, the fact that you can't take on more clients? Is it, for example, the fact that your onboarding sucks? You want to identify those constraints, and from that, you basically want to identify priorities of what you can actually do. My top picks of different things that we see in agencies most commonly is onboarding. It's such an easy way to actually implement. Client results tracking, especially for results-based agencies, and any sort of team management flows. If you focus on the first two, then that's the bangers I would basically go for, to be honest, because those are the ones that are going to drive the most impact within your agency. When we come to an agency, it's the first two things that we actually focus on, because usually those are what drive the highest ROI basically immediately. The third step of this is once you've mapped out your processes, once you've optimized them and identified your priorities, you actually want to begin implementing AI into your different workflows. And this is not just using ChatGPT in a reactive fashion, asking it to do something for you when you're actually doing a task. This is looking at the process breakdown, or like different examples I'm showing you today, all my different YouTube videos that will have all of the channel, and using these different workflows to streamline or create different tools for your team members to streamline their workflows. Now, if you haven't already, I really recommend subscribing to my channel, because literally after recording this video, I'm going to be recording a whole breakdown going over how you can basically build a media buyer that you can give to your media buyer to make it easier, for example, to create Facebook ad campaigns, to manage different ads, so on and so forth. But you don't have to start with anything as complicated as that. Pick any of the random video on my YouTube channel. I'd actually recommend watching this video right here, the 2 simple systems that cut churn to 5%, because it's literally a 1 hour breakdown showing you how you can build an onboarding process and a process that allows you to regularly check client results, kind of like the example I showed earlier before. And basically all we're practically doing here is just planting the seed for a plant that's going to grow in a much larger place. This does not have to be the most complicated thing, guys. It does not have to be the most sophisticated system straight off the bat. Even having a simple automation that you build on something like Mate.com or NA10 will allow you to drive things forward, and just giving your team the tools they can actually use to get a greater output for the same input. And also, don't be scared to use Claude. I've got a whole video coming out this soon, so if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications, because I'm literally building a whole system for agency live for you guys on this channel. But with Claude Code, it's very easy to build these different things, just chat to the AI bot and they will be able to guide you through on how to actually build it. So that's step 3. We got step 1, which is mapping out your workflow. We got step 2, which is optimizing your workflow and identify priorities. We have step 3, which is actually building out the different AI workflows using different resources from my channel or just AI, obviously. And we have step 4, which is refining this and repeating this over time. Guys, in an agency, things change. This is not something you do once and then forget for the rest of your time. This is something that you do once, evaluate, and do again. And then after that, you again evaluate and do it again. And then after that, you evaluate and you do it again. It's a consistent loop that you repeat basically every month of the year. And this is why for us, anyways, I mean, for our existing clients, they stay with us for 2 years plus because there's always so much work to do in terms of refinements that you need to do to actually make this better. Because in an agency, a lot of things change. Processes may change, people may change, improvements can actually come. And the chances are the system that you build out the first time round will not be a system that you will have in a year's time. This is the what I tell to my different clients when I first deliver a system to them. This is the worst version of this is all you're going to be. And it's only with your feedback that we're actually going to be able to make it better. So apply the same principle in your agency when you're giving these different tools to your team members. You want to tell them, hey, I built a system for you, but this is going to be the worst version it's going to be. I need feedback to actually make it better. And from there, you can actually make it better and have some tools that actually work for your agency. And obviously, I can use the AI to actually refine that. So guys, that's an overview of how you can actually implement this in your agency. I haven't gone too deep into the actual build side of things for the AI workflow specifically because I've got so many different examples on my channel. Usually pick most of these videos and they'll give you an idea of how you can actually do that. I literally have a whole video going over how I'm going to use Claude Code to actually build a media buyer to replace a media buyer in my agency. In this case, the title is going to be something like replace, but we're not actually looking to replace people. We're just basically looking to give tools to our existing employees to make their life easier so they can have a greater output for the same input of their time. But the main thing I want you to focus on in terms of actually implementing this within your agency is the mapping out bit, because this is the thing that's going to prevent you from creating some random automation that you're not going to use compared to something that's actually useful and your team is actually going to use and you're actually going to use to basically give your clients a better experience. The last kind of bonus tip I'm going to give you is that your backend right now is realistically blind, and data is the only thing that's going to unblind this guy basically over here. I'm remove these sunglasses and then be able to see the beautiful world or all the different results you're actually getting for your clients. Data is going to be a key part of AI, especially as it continues to evolve. And data is going to be one of the greatest assets that any sort of business has, more specifically for agencies. Because now, even with AI, it's not going to be, okay, cool, how can I do this? Because AIs are going to get so advanced. They're going to have so many different media managers AI or marketing AIs that will be able to do marketing for you. Your biggest asset is going to be the data that you actually have. So the reason I'm including this as a pro tip, because I honestly, I'd feel some sort of conscious level in my heart if I didn't tell you this, but you need to track everything that happens in your agency. You need to actually store your client data. You need to be able to track outcomes. How long does it take someone, for example, to get their first sale, or what gets the best sales? What actually track different actions that your team members are doing or your clients are doing, and track timelines for all the different things that are happening. You basically want to get a really, really good data set within your agency, because better data will lead to better AI outputs. Better AI outputs will lead to better decisions, and better decisions will lead to better margins, because like we're going to have these systems that will basically allow us to make life so much easier for our clients. The systems themselves are not the key thing here. It's the data you'll be able to collect from these systems, and the data that goes into the systems or what's actually going to make them better. So find the high leverage things, and actually collecting data is going to be one of the massive things you can actually do within your agency to have super high leverage in the future. In this world of AI agents, you can actually stand out. So that's a whole side domain. I'll probably make a whole videos on this. Subscribe if you want to, but this is the kind of common trend that we're seeing going forward. Everyone, especially the bigger agencies, they're starting to think about how the data side of things will impact them in 5 years time, which is a long time away, to be honest, especially at the rate everything's evolving. But one thing that is common across everything is the collection of data. If you were to create some sort of AI model, or at least some sort of GPT, and you were to ask it, hey, how can I improve the marketing in my agency? You will get some general response. But now, for example, if in that same model, you were to input your ad data, you were to input your sales calls, you were to input, I don't know, whatever other data you may be related to marketing within your agency, you would get such a better output. And that's the whole idea here. We'll basically be collecting this data for different clients. So in the future, when we want to use AI to actually build these systems, we can give it so much more context that's relevant to us. And in the end, we'll have basically a better output, which will lead to better decisions and will lead to better margins. So that's the last pro tip I want to give you. But in general, guys, what we basically gone over is how AI has changed fulfillment. The whole idea of this video was first and first to give you an idea of the shift in the agency model and what it's going to look like in a couple of years time once everyone has started adopting AI into the different workflows to make life so much easier. I wanted to really emphasize the fact that it's not about firing people, it's just about increasing the output that we're currently existing. Then we went over 3 different examples of different AI workflows that our clients are currently using to streamline different processes. All these examples are simple, but they're real examples you can copy in your agency to give you some idea ideas of different things you can plant in your agency and then expand upon with your own tools. And then we went over how you can actually implement this in your agency by mapping out your processes, optimizing them, and then choosing the highest priority items. In this video, we didn't specifically build anything out, but I've literally have hundreds of videos on this channel going over real builds, 1 hour plus videos going over onboarding builds, and I'll be recording a new video shortly going over how I use Claude Code to just literally build a media buyer. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications because we drop value like this every single month. We don't make our money off YouTube. All the money comes from our actual agency, and all this is just nurture. So if you're watching this, by the way, and you haven't booked a call, go ahead and book that call in. But if you found this video randomly on YouTube, then you're in luck because again, we don't hide anything here. So guys, I hope this was valuable. If you have any questions whatsoever, then drop a comment below. Again, the whole idea of this is showing you how AI has changed fulfillment, and make sure you don't get left behind in a world where you have high stress, low margins, and low profit, because you shouldn't be doing that, especially nowadays with AI. You should be in a world where you have low stress, you have more team members, but you can, with that same team members, you can have a much greater output in terms of the number of clients you can actually manage. And you basically just getting more out for your team and building different tools to make your team's life easier. That's literally all we do at Fluxomate. So if any of this was interesting and you want more information about how we specifically help agencies, you can check out links in the description. You can probably book a call with me, or you can just go straight to our Done For You product, which is a 14-day implementation of a system that will allow you to reduce the churn in your agency if you're a results-based agency. Again, all the links in the description you can check out here. I'm not going to bore you with that stuff here. Apart from that, guys, do not stop learning here. You now have an idea of how you can actually map everything out. What I'm going to link at the end of this video is a video going over 2 simple systems that will separate in your agency to actually decrease your churn rate. And these are just real builds that we're going to go over together. It's a complete onboarding build, so behind the scenes look into what you can actually build. And also, I am recording a video literally straight after this going over how we're going to use Claude Code to actually create a media buyer that will automate media buying for an agency. It's a real build. So if that's valuable, it probably might not be out yet by the time you're watching this, but turn on post notifications. And as soon as it's out, you get a notification so you don't miss out on all that stuff. Apart from that, guys, that is it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions, drop them below. And yeah, if you're an agency owner managing more than 60 clients and you want to improve the backend processes in your agency so you can take on more clients without ruining about your client experience or stress on your team, then check out the links in the description. I'd love to talk to you. All right, guys, look after yourselves and don't stop learning here. Check out this video that's coming up. Bye.